Modernism. The beginning of incomprehensible poetry at scale. T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, Wallace Stevens, Hart Crane, Marianne Moore. But none of them, bless their hearts, was ever as hard to understand as their postmodern offspring, John Ashbery, who makes them seem as clear as a glass of water. Have a taste. John Ashbery's selected poems, the first poem in the book, 2 scenes. 1. We see us as we truly behave. From every corner comes a distinctive offering. The train comes bearing joy, the sparks it strikes illuminate the table. Destiny guides the water pilot, and it is destiny. Sorry, what? Did I just have a stroke? Because I can see that he's speaking English, but I have no idea what he's on about. And yet, W.H. Auden awarded Ashbery the Yale Younger Poets Prize for the volume that poem came from, called Some Trees. And 20 years later, he achieved what no other writer in the whole history of America has ever done. In a single year, he won the 3 highest awards in American literature: the National Book Award, the National Book Critics Circle Award, and the Pulitzer Prize for his collection Self-Portrait in a Convex Mirror. So, Ashbery seems to be a poet that critics love and people hate. But whenever you ask these same critics what's so good about Ashbery, you can't get a straight answer out of them. They give you the same old cliche response: oh, he's not meant to be understood, he's meant to be felt. Or, the confusion is the point of his poetry. Man, fuck you! So, for a long time, I've had a pretty toxic relationship with John Ashbery because without knowing why, I kept coming back to him. And then leaving again, disgusted with how difficult his poetry was, to the point where I want to hurl his book across the room. But then, this thought would always come back to my mind. I'm being for real here. The thought was this: a poet who has the observational power to write a simile as beautiful as, studious as a butterfly in a parking lot must be a true poet. As Aristotle points out, the number 1 mark of poetic genius is a genius for metaphor. I cannot deny this to Ashbery. But what about a genius for making friggin' sense, eh? Well, in the past year, something strange has happened to me. I've begun to understand Ashbery's poetry. I know, crazy. But even stranger, and much more revealing to the poetry itself, is the story of how that happened. Almost exactly 1 year ago, I traveled to Japan with the plan of living there for a year to research what population collapse, an aging population, and low birth rate all look like on the ground level, since all of this might be coming to a city near you in the next few decades. Now, it goes without saying that I took as many books with me as physically possible. But when in Japan, the 2 books that brought me the most comfort were Wallace Stevens' selected poems and, surprise, surprise, John Ashbery's selected poems. And at first, I had no idea why Ashbery. I mean, I was already surrounded by a language I couldn't understand, which I was trying very hard to learn. So why was I also reading a book of poems I couldn't understand? It didn't make sense to me. But something interesting happens when you don't speak the dominant language of the world around you, in this case, Japanese. You become disconnected from the people around you, lovely though they were, and that alienation pushes you deep into yourself. That disconnect from the people around me made me more connected with my own unconscious. And then, this is the note I wrote that fateful day, the funniest thing happened. Sitting in a cafe today, rereading for the nth time some impenetrable poem of Ashbery's that I never thought I would understand, I, all of a sudden, found myself beginning to understand it, and the more I read, the more that beginningness became a fullness, like a glass being filled with water. No strain or effort had come from my part. I was just reading a poem to escape my surroundings. That very desire to escape provided all the effort needed to get close enough to the poem for understanding. Stupidly, I forgot to record which poem it was that I was reading at the time, but I do remember the exact location. After that revelation, reading John Ashbery while squished in a packed train or sitting at mostly the Starbucks in a winter park, I began to realize that though my conscious mind was not fully understanding Ashbery's meanings, my unconscious mind was, as if without my brain knowing it, my soul was eating a very nourishing meal. And the more I tried to tune into my unconscious, the more I realized that what it was tracking and tracing is what we waking people like to call dream logic, or the logic of the unconscious mind. Let me put it like this. Reading W.H. Auden feels like you've entered the mythology of the urban world. Reading Robert Browning feels like you've entered the golden palace of the intellect. Shakespeare feels like the invisible universe of the heart. But reading John Ashbery feels like you've entered the still poorly explored world of dreams. And the same way that some people take LSD and then listen to music to quote unquote see the music, if you could keep yourself in that state between sleep and wakefulness that you experience every morning, i.e. the hypnopompic state, and then read John Ashbery's poetry, I guarantee that you would understand almost 100% of it. In this respect, John Ashbery is very much like David Lynch. And just as Lynch is the king of the dream world in cinema, Ashbery is the king of the dream world in poetry. So what does dreamy poetry look like? Here's the opening to John Ashbery's At North Farm, which in the Finnish epic, the Kalevala, is the last stop before hell. Somewhere someone is traveling furiously towards you at incredible speed, traveling day and night, through blizzards and desert heat, across torrents, through narrow passes. But will he know where to find you, recognize you when he sees you, give you the thing he has for you? His poems are like remembered dreams, especially that first line. Somewhere someone is traveling furiously toward you, as if you're in the process of forgetting a dream you just had. His poetry is one whose reason is based on the non sequiturs of the heart, one stripped of all identifying details, and one that inhabits that limbo between the concrete and the abstract. For instance, he's the ending to Ashbery's very Catcher in the Rye-like poem called Just Walking Around. It gets to be kind of lonely in there, but at the same time off-putting, counterproductive, as you realize once again that the longest way is the most efficient way, the one that looped among islands, and you always seem to be traveling in a circle. And now that the end is near, the segments of the trip swing open like an orange. There is light in there, and mystery, and food. Come see it. Come not for me, but it. But if I am still there, grant that we may see each other. When every object is so stripped of detail, as in a half-remembered dream, the reader finds himself providing his own context to the poem and overlaying his life onto it. And contrary to aesthetic expectations, the poem gets even stronger for it, as if a sort of poetic Barnum effect was at play here. The Barnum effect being the phenomenon that occurs when individuals believe that personality descriptions apply specifically to them more so than other people, despite the fact that the description is actually filled with information that applies to everyone. But what separates Ashbery from a charlatan, I find, is that Ashbery genuinely traces unconscious patterns. He illuminates the subconscious dream world and provides healing in the form of wisdom. For instance, one word/concept/mood you'll find popping up repeatedly in Ashbery is that of forgetting. And it just so happens that one of his most renowned poems is called Soonest Mended, a reference to the proverb, least said, soonest mended, implying that forgetting is healing. This gives us the hint to the dreamy amnesic quality of his poems, as though the poet were perpetually waking up from one of those emotionally painful dreams in which you, say, talk to a dead relative or had all your teeth fall out, and so as though the poet were perpetually wondering whether forgetting the whole thing might not, in the end, be the only solution. Hence, one of the things that Ashbery's poetry teaches you is how to forgive and forget wisely, without needless guilt, regret, or pain, as if yesterday was just a bad dream. And it teaches you, through its tone, how to forgive yourself, but deeper down at the unconscious or spiritual level. Now, because I want to share Ashbery with as many people as possible, here are just 5 quick sentences of his that I love. 1. Summer. There is that sound like the wind, forgetting in the branches that means something nobody can translate. 2. Le livre sur la table, which means the book is on the table. All beauty, resonance, integrity exist by deprivation or logic of strange position. 3. As one put drunk into the packet bird, I tried each thing, only some were immortal and free. 4. The task. I plan to stay here a little while, for these are moments only, moments of insight, and there are reaches to be attained, a last level of anxiety that melts in becoming, like miles under the pilgrim's feet. And 5, soonest mended. For this is action, this not being sure, this careless preparing, sowing the seeds crooked in the furrow, making ready to forget, and always coming back to the mooring of starting out, that day so long ago. Whenever I feel like I want to hide from the world and get as far away from reality as possible, when I want to get outside of reality, when I want to enter that hidden world of dreams and walk right out of my life through the doorway of a book and go around touching the corners of pre-conscious wisdom and running a finger around its strange geometry. Without thought, I reach the Ashbery, the comforts of sleep, of dreams, of the thought of unaliving yourself, as Nietzsche remarked was a great comfort of his, and the comforts of John Ashbery's poetry, all go together. He takes you to a place beyond death in the same way I feel that Avo Part Fratres takes you to a place beyond death, a place where you can finally know peace. This strange book is a nautical star chart, not for the navigation of the real world by the night stars, but for the navigation of the dream world by the mind stars. Oh, and just to let you know, I still don't understand what that first poem, 2 scenes, really means. Put your interpretation in the comments if you have one. But its last 2 lines are worth remembering. As laughing cadets say, in the evening, everything has a schedule if you can find out what it is. Thank you for watching. Love ya. See you next time.
Yeah, got me screaming more life. We could do this all night. There are things we don't like. Could be worse, we alright. Got me screaming more life. A good day to live. Pain came and went. Life's full of ups and downs. That's the way it is. Rent's paid, let's play. I ain't no Chamberlain, but call me Sensei. How you label it?